Hi, everyone, and welcome to this special live edition of Crushing Land. Happy to be here with you guys today. And I tried to go live a few minutes ago, and unfortunately, my microphone wasn't on. Didn't realize that, so I apologize for anything like that if you guys are trying to watch. But here we are. I can see that I have audio, and I can see that it's streaming. So glad to be here with you guys today. And what we're talking about today is, excuse me, the use of third-party integrations in our land use business, land investing business. And the reason we're bringing this up is it's actually come up more and more recently. I've had a couple different students ask me about it, different programs, different things out there, different features, integrations that are out there, and should they use it? I've seen a couple different posts on that and different things like that. So we're going to take a few minutes here today, and we're going to talk about the use of third-party integrations in our land investing business. And in reality, when it comes to third-party integrations, there's a few different reasons that these are brought forth to people. And knowing what the reasons are actually can help you very much with determining which ones to use. So, for example, people will recommend third party integrations that they actually use day in and day out in their business. We've done that with you guys in your resources in the Land Riches Blueprint course. There's different third party integrations that we recommend and that we use ourselves. Another reason that people will bring them forth to you is because they are actually the provider of them, like the data provider. So there's different examples out there where you'll see people bringing forth information and talking about things. And basically, what it is that they're selling a product, right? And so because of that, they want you to use that product. And then one that's becoming more and more common in recent years or recent months is that of people that basically are newer in this business and are younger for in some cases and basically are all focused on AI and things like that. And so because of that, they're leaning way into third party integrations. And so they're pushing that more and more and more. They really unfortunately don't have a ton of experience in land investing other than in recent history. And so they're making these decisions without a whole bunch of knowledge into them. And again, that's what we're going to be talking about today is using these third party integrations. When, where, if, all of that. So first off, let me say that I am a big believer and a big user of third-party integration. So I'm never going to say not to use them. In fact, if any of you have our course, if any of you have heard me talk on any of our live trainings that we've done, I talk about things that you should look to outsource, which would be a third-party integration, very quickly in your land investing business journey. So I am a big, big, big believer of third party integrations. So there are certain ones, like I said here, that you should be looking at using pretty much right away, and ones that you should be looking to integrate. Then there's a second group, which is ones that you may integrate in certain cases. And then there's the third group, which is the ones that I highly recommend that you do not use. And so we're going to talk about all of those things today. Now, obviously, being in 2024, AI, robotics, this third party integrations, all this other type of information is becoming more and more prominent, right? It's really blown up in recent history. And the fact is, as we go along in history, it's going to become even more, right? We look down just look down the path here for the next 5 or 10 years, we can see how much more prominent that these things are going to be. So that being said, we are very, very high up on using the right one. So let me give you guys some examples with that. One of the things, and you may not even think about this as a third-party integration, but we'll talk about why it is. One example that we recommend highly is a mail house, right? Because it's simply not possible to scale if you're doing more than a couple hundred pieces a week, right? You can't sit there and do all that work yourself. So having that integrated to a mail house where they are handling that, where they're taking care of it every week, where they're doing those things for you, where it's going out, where it's automatic, all of that, that is a good integration to have, right? We use tlmmail.com. We recommend that. We have a number of you use that as well, and it works very well. Their pricing is good. It basically comes out to being around the same price that you could do it yourself anyway. And so when you're looking at those things, that's an integration that makes sense. Another integration that we use is a call center. we highly recommend using a call center as well. Why? Because then that person calls in saying that they want to sell their property. They're actually talking to a live person, right? So they want to call in. If they call you directly, you may not be able to pick up. You're going back and forth. You're playing telephone tag with them. They leave a voicemail. Some give information, some don't. All of these different things. Whereas the call center gets the information directly, speaks to the person, and passes it along to you. So again, a third-party integration that we use regularly. And again, if you've ever watched me, do a live training, if you've ever seen, if you have our Land Riches Blueprint course, it's one of the first things that we talk about in it is outsourcing those two things. So that is an integration that we highly, highly, highly recommend. Another one that we recommend is the Land Riches Machine CRM. Why do we recommend using that? Because it's taking tasks that you simply cannot do or would not have the time to do, or would take you hours and hours and hours, so you'd fall so far behind, and putting them into automations that would work. Being able to drop people in, being able to make sure that they're followed up with, being able to make sure that they're contacted again at the right time, having all of that laid out through AI so that that person is able to, you're able to stay in front of that person and being able to stay in front of that seller. Or if it's a case of somebody that actually signs with you, or somebody that you made an offer to, and like staying in front of them the right way. So all of these different automations in there to be able to stay in front of people. Again, if you're doing massive amounts, trying to run that off of a spreadsheet and run that off of other things just really isn't the case. So that's an example of a third party, integration that we highly recommend. And I know that there's some people out there that say, well, I don't even like any of this. I'd rather just do it myself. And I understand that a little bit, because some people are just a little nervous to take on something new. But the bottom line is, if you want to grow, you're never going to be able to do it yourself. You're going to need some sort of help and some sort of tools to be able to do it. And just the things that I mentioned, those three things, shave hours and hours and hours off the week. We were able to do this year, just changing our CRM and changing those things. We're being able to do 3 times so far already this year what we did last year, and spending less time doing it. So that's an example there where it's actually saving us time, it's saving us money, it's making us money because of that. And that is something that you want to look at as well. And sometimes people get a little nervous and they say, well, there's a learning curve and it's going to take me time, and I'm going to, that time that I'm spending now is times that I can't spend doing deals and things like that. And that may be true. There is a learning curve, especially with how advanced some of these things are and how much they can do. But when you take the time to do it, just view it as an investment, right? You're spending an investment in yourself, into your business. It's an investment of time to be able to have these things do the work for you. And then because of that, you're able to free up time and make more money in the back end. So those are examples there of third-party integrations that we highly recommend, that we use day in and day out in our land investing businesses. What are some examples of ones that you may use, but you may not always use? Well, a perfect example to me would be some sort of data set, some sort of data information company, somebody that provides information like TLM Prop or TLMlist.com, where you're going out and you're going to DataTree, you're going to PropStream, you're going to one of those companies and you're pulling data on properties. Why don't we use them? If they have all this information, why don't we use them as the key source? Why aren't they in that first group? The bottom line is that their information simply is not as good. It's simply not as reliable as where we get it from. We always try to go directly to the source of the information, which in this case would be the county, right? We're always trying to get the information from the county. So if we can get the information from them directly, they are the same people that is providing it to those third-party sources. So because of that, the information that the county has is always going to be the most reliable, right? Third-party services will tell you they've got the most reliable information out there. And the bottom line is it's simply not true. It may be the most reliable third-party service, but it's not going to be the most reliable information, because they're still getting their information from the government. And if you can get it directly from the government, then you are getting the best information possible. So why would we use them in certain cases then? Well, there's a few different reasons. One, there may be people that there may be areas where you just need to get something immediately, right? We've had people that are like, I need to get a mailing out tomorrow. If you go directly to the county and you're trying to download a list and trying to format it and all of that, have it formatted, that's not something that you can probably do tomorrow, right? To have mailing go out tomorrow. Whereas if you went to one of these third party vendors and they had that information for you already, nice and easy. You can send out, you can have mailing go out tomorrow. Another area would be where you're looking for just a very specific part of it. Maybe you've got a property and you want to mail to neighbors in that area, or maybe you want to target a certain subdivision or whatever it may be. You can go in, and yes, it's not going to be perfect, but you're able to go in and you're able to look at just a very small segment and say, okay, I only want this. And so those work well for that. Or perhaps it's an area that's a non-disclosed state, a county that's difficult to work with. They just don't want to give you the information. And yes, we've been successful in getting the county to give that stuff to us. But the problem is, do you really want to sit there and fight with them and go back and forth for weeks, maybe months to finally get that list, right? If the third party integration software company has it, then you can go directly to them, get the list from them, and get the contacts out. And we've done that in certain cases with counties like that. But again, this is not something that we do all the time. Again, not ones that you need or should be using, but ones that you can use, right? So that leads us to our third group. And this is probably the biggest one where people make mistakes. And a lot of it's because of the information out there. And these are the ones that you should not use, all right? Shouldn't use. And this is basically where you're replacing humans where you shouldn't be replacing humans. And so there's different examples out here. I'll give you a couple. I'm not going to name names of companies or anything like that, but I'll give you examples. And you've probably seen things for stuff like this, different ones that do this. And I'll explain why you don't want to do it. So one, for example, there's some companies out there that basically say, come to us, you pick an area, whatever it may be, and we'll get the data for that area from you. We'll take it, we'll get it cleaned up, we'll figure out what the properties are worth, we'll price it for you, we'll do all of this, and then we'll give it back to you, and you basically have it ready to go, and then you're ready to have all of your information sitting there. The problem with that is that data is often wildly inaccurate. It's simply is taking some sort of AI or some sort of algorithm or whatever it may be, and it's plugging it in and it's pulling information. And the property pricing is way off. And again, the reason is you're taking the human element out of it. If you go and comp properties, which we recommend you do on every property, if you go and you comp a property, you can sit there and you can reason, hey, there's 10 properties here that are in the $40,000 to $50,000 range. Why are these two only at $10,000? Right? The algorithms, the AI in there does not have the ability to reason. And so because of that, it messes up when it sees information like that. And even in other cases where it's even more straightforward, it still messes it up. And I see it all the time because I get letters from people that are using companies like this. And we'll have a piece of property that's worth $100,000 and they're offering me $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 on it because their information is way off. Conversely, I've got pieces of property that are worth $50,000, $60,000 and I'm getting $100,000 offers. So again, way off. And again, it takes out the human ability for it, right? And part of that is what is there, right? If the property is next door, but your property is waterfront and the one across the street isn't, is it worth the same thing? No, you can reason that. Artificial intelligence cannot. If it's on a mountain and you're on the higher end and you have an amazing view for 20 miles and the property just below you is staring into trees, is it the same? No, right? You can reason that. AI cannot. And so that is why you do not want to be using these type of things. If people say, well, when I come to those mistakes, I'll just fix them. The problem with that is that if you're doing that and you're playing that game of going back and fixing it, you're actually costing yourself more time. You're costing yourself more money. Why bother doing that? Why not just do it in the beginning and have it right from the marketing perspective? Because it's a lot easier to do it then as opposed to having to fix it when you actually have a contract in hand, right? That's when you want to be right. So you want to be doing these things right from the beginning. And that's why a third party like that is not something that we recommend using and have never used, right? We've looked into them. We've seen it. We heard horror stories from others that have done it. And so because of that, we highly recommend that you don't use it. And again, even though it's 2024 and AI is taking off more and there's going to be more and more of that, and it's going to get advanced and it's going to get better, it's still not a human. It's still not a human. It doesn't have the human mind. It can't reason. It can't discern things that we can. The other example that I would use would be ones that basically are telling you that they can show you all the information about the property, right? They can show you what's there for zoning. They can show you what's there for utilities. They can show you this. They can show you this. They can show you this. Again, that information is wildly inaccurate. I've seen it over and over and over again. You are taking out the ability of having a conversation with an actual human to get that information on that property and finding out what's there. So when it comes to these kind of conversations, when it comes to zoning questions, when it comes to public utilities, when it comes to this, I want to have a conversation with an actual human that works in that department to verify everything, because this is what's going into my marketing. This is what I'm telling buyers, right? And I want to make sure that everything's right. This is also what determined whether or not I was purchasing that property to begin with. Do you really want to trust some third-party integration, or do you want to make certain, right? And so that's where we say you don't want to be looking at these things. And I know that they teach up and down these things save time, they save money. They really don't. They really do not, because the time that it takes to go back and verify and to correct and to adjust easily could have been spent just having those conversations to begin with. If you have 10 contracts, let's just use the 10 contracts that come back in a week, you're literally talking about a couple of hours of time to get all of this information. They can say, well, you can just plug it into this and you can have it all in 20 minutes. But if 2 or 3 are wrong, you got to go back and figure that out, and you might make bad decisions and all that. Whereas just having the conversations, you find out things. And the stuff that I have found out over the years, talking to zoning officials, talking to planners, talking to people, it's amazing what you find out. And what that is what opens up the world of possibilities even more. So when it comes to these third-party integrations, never take out the human element where it needs to be. And I'll give you guys some examples of stories that I've heard. And again, people that are newer in this are not going to know this. They're not going to do this. But people that have relied on this kind of information have put things out. They say something's on a property that is not. Right? This property has public sewer, and it doesn't. And then they sell it. And the person buying it says the same thing. And then they come back and they go after that person saying it. Now, obviously, the contract says that they have to do their own due diligence, but they get a good attorney. You might not lose, but you're going to spend some money with attorney fees and fighting it and all of that. Whereas if you're not relying on something like that, you're relying directly on the county information. Yes, we put out there that same thing. We'll put out there that it has public sewer, but we'll also say per the county, per the city, per this public works person, per this, per this, per this. And we have proof of that. We have our notes, we have our emails, whatever it may be. We can show that. That actually came up recently in an example with us. There was something on the property. The person was very skeptical about it. They're like, if this is here, I said, no, it's being removed. They're redoing the whole thing. They're like, are you sure? It doesn't look like it. I sent them the person's contact information that talked to me. I sent them the emails back and forth, and they said, great, we're ready to move forward. Now, it could come up that the city changes its mind, decides not to do what's planned. I can't control that. But at that time, when I made that decision and they made that decision to buy, it was based on that and what was actually being shown to them from those people, right? As opposed to just oh yeah, I've got this party here. I've got this information here from this third party. And so because of it, I'm just going to jump in and make my decision accordingly. So don't set yourself up for a failure, set yourself up for success. And the way to do that is to use third-party integrations when appropriate, right? And there's plenty of times that we do that, staying in front of people, staying in touch with them, getting our marketing out, all of those things, reminding us when to do things. It's time to send an offer. It's time to send a second. All of these different things in our business, excuse me, we're following down the line with these things. Then there's certain cases where we do use them again. Oh yeah, I want to send out to this specific area. Okay, let's pull this from a third party. Oh, this county is really difficult to work with. Okay, let's pull the county records from this third party. Oh, I want to reach out to neighbors in this area. Okay, let's pull this from a third party, right? Third party integration in some cases. But then where the human element needs to be included, where you need to sit there and you need to verify things for sure, where you're talking about your money being put up. This is making a decision whether or not I'm going to buy this property or not. I am going to sell it a certain way or not. I'm making this decision. That's where you want to talk to a human and have that relationship, not relying on third-party integrations. And again, it comes down as best as they've done, as best as they've become, as far as they've grown, as far as all of this stuff has happened, as people are going along, it's still artificial. It can't do what the human brain can do. And so, because of that, you really want to be careful, and you're not going to be able to do more. We know what we do for deals. We know what our students are doing for deals, and they're not having these issues that others are coming forward saying, hey, I've used things like this and it's creating problems. Why? Because they're putting their time, even though, yes, it's a little bit more in those conversations, they're putting it where it needs to be and having better relationships and getting the right answers that they need. And then they're putting their time into third-party integrations and AI where appropriate. And so because of that, they're still able to do as much, as opposed to these people that are basically just plastering stuff out there, trying to rely on integrations for all of their information, going back and trying to band-aid and fix things, because that's what happens. And that turns into a nightmare for them. So again, just keep that in mind. We're talking about third parties, where to use it. Sorry, notifications are going off here, but you're talking about third-party integrations, when to use them. Again, some cases we always use them. Some cases we use them in when it's appropriate, and other times we never use it. So thank you for joining us for this live Crushing Land